The Jolt. This is The Jolt with Larry Flick on SiriusXM LQ.
What a pleasure it is to welcome back to our studio the gorgeous, and I forgot how tall, Stana Katic is. How are you?
Really well, thank you.
It's really nice to see you again.
Thank you.
Last time we chatted was for your movie CBGB.
Yes.
It was so good to see you doing something different, and just nice to see you back on the screen in general. You know, Stana Katic can be seen on the ABC show Castle Mondays, 10 p.m., 9 Central. This show has a very interesting life, doesn't it?
Yeah.
In that it's one of those shows that the cool kids don't trip over to praise, but people watch.
Yeah.
And isn't that ultimately what matters?
Yeah.
It's a quality show that you and Nathan Fillion do just such great work on.
Thank you.
Do you find that people underestimated the power of what you guys were doing on this show?
I think that the show was originally kind of like the little engine that could.
Yeah.
And it took a while for audiences to find it. It took a couple episodes for us to find our own groove as well. But luckily we had a few people in the studio that were supporting us and kept us on, and I think that it grew slowly year by year, and so now we've got a real substantial group of viewership, and it's nice.
Is there an element that you can point toward as being the thing that people latch on to? I mean, obviously the two of you have great chemistry. Mm-hmm. It's a well-written show. But what is it about? I mean, there are lots of great actors with great chemistry on well-written shows that people don't care about. Mm-hmm. What is it about this show from your point of view?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. I definitely think that it's not just the romance of those two characters, the Castle and Beckett character, that draws people in, but it's the characters in general. So we have a really nice cast across the board, and that's helpful because they elevate the storytelling. So it's not your standard procedural. And if you think about it, many stories are mysteries. Even Lord of the Rings was a mystery in some ways. And so you use that as the backdrop that is kind of the motivating factor at moving the story forward. But as you do that, as you move that story forward, you also lean on these really wonderful kind of characters so that people can relate to the different things that are happening throughout the story. And I think that we have a wonderful kind of group in general. And it's a nice mix, right? It's got a bit of drama and it's got a bit of comedy and romance. So I think that that's something that ends up being like a piece of dessert after dinner for audiences.
What is it about Kate that you like?
Yeah, I think she's got a tremendous amount of integrity. I like her. I admire the character. I'm glad that I got to be a part of it and a part of creating her. I think that she's flawed, and because of that, she's heroic to me. She's not got all the answers. She doesn't make the right moves all the time. And she tries, in spite of her failings, to do her best. And I think that that makes her relatable. And I find that there's a lot of like young girls who admire that character and want to be in some ways like that character, and I'm proud of being a part of creating something like that.
There's something about your face when you're on screen as Kate that is very, very interesting. It feels like it all lays right in the jaw.
Really?
Yeah. There's something about her that is tough, which is interesting, but it's all like, yeah, I'm having a hard time articulating it, but I love there are certain shots that they get of you,
yeah,
where it really, I feel like her toughness, her strength, her pride. She's a very prideful woman.
Mhm.
and I feel like it all lands right on her jawline. I know you think I'm nuts, and that's fine and fair, but it just feels like so when you are climbing inside her,
Uh-huh.
um, what are you thinking about? Are you as aware of her body as we are watching? Because obviously we're watching you in motion, or are you lost in the words and her motivations? Like what is the first fuel of
Hmm.
Kate?
Yeah, the first fuel is always the curiosity and the need to know and the need to resolve the injustice.
Mm.
Um, she has lower tolerance than I do for people that are on the other side of the law. So sometimes we sit on other sides about that. But that's a driving factor. She obviously wants to bring the victims justice and take a killer or bad guy down.
what what keeps her from becoming a trap for you as an actor? Because the beauty of having a steady job is obviously paying your bills, and there could be great joy in adding nuance to a character. But then when a show becomes super successful,
Yeah.
they can become like, what do they call them, velvet handcuffs, right?
Right.
How do you make sure that that doesn't happen?
That's interesting. It's true. And especially with a procedural, it's very easy to get into the by rote sing-songiness of a
Yeah,
procedural.
yeah, because you start thinking. I mean, I would be thinking about lunch,
Yeah.
if I wasn't really constantly concentrating. But that can start to hurt your head after a while.
Yeah. There are episodes that are occasionally focused on my character. And so those are the ones where I get a chance to create some growth. We're not always on the same page about it, though. When I've thought that we've accomplished something, and then I discover in an episode or two later that perhaps writers, producers weren't necessarily in that same mindset as I was. So, what I think keeps it from being boring and redundant is trying to specifically focusing on some of those episodes, trying to stay in communication with the writers, the director, and find out where we are and how we can move the character forward. And then also on the days that it's not necessarily about my character, or on the days or the episodes that it's not about my character, which is like a majority of the season, I get a scene or two with an amazing actor, and you can just fall into it and just be present and challenge each other to try for something a little bit more unique and ambitious. But it's a dance. Television is a very interesting beast because there is kind of a machine element to it. And sometimes the machine doesn't necessarily allow for the best situation for a creative individual to kind of explore things. Sometimes that's a gift, sometimes it's not, right? Sometimes you can create some really interesting stuff when you have like minimal tools, but sometimes it can be a hindrance. So